Hello everyone, and welcome back to Bridge English channel, where we relax, listen, and learn English together. And today we are going to talk about something many English learners ask us all the time. How can I stop translating in my head? And how can I start thinking in English? And maybe right now as you are listening, you are already thinking, yes, this is exactly my problem.
Oh, yes, all the time. And maybe you are listening right now and you understand English well. Grammar, a lot of vocabulary, but when you try to speak, everything feels slow and you translate every sentence from your language into English. And by the time you finish, the moment is gone. Does that sound like maybe someone asks you a simple question like, what did you do yesterday? And inside your head, there is silence while you are building the sentence.
If it does, you are not alone, and today we want to explain what thinking in English really means, what academic research actually says about it, and most importantly, how you can train your brain to think in English step by step. And we will also share real experience because John learned French to fluency, and he knows exactly what this feels like, and that feeling of being 1 second too late in conversation.
Yes, I remember very clearly at the beginning I translated everything. Every sentence, every thought I could speak, but it felt heavy. And I was always 1 step behind in the conversation. Someone would make a joke. And by the time I understood and translated it, the topic had already changed. So let's start with something important. What does thinking in English really mean? Because many people imagine something mysterious.
Exactly. And it is not mysterious at all. What it really means is this. Your brain can access English words and phrases quickly and automatically, without needing to search for them every time it is about access. That is the key word. Imagine opening a drawer and the word is already there instead of searching in every room of the house.
When you translate in your head, your brain does 2 jobs first. You think of the idea in your own language, then you look for the English words. That extra step takes time. And that is why speaking feels slow and difficult. Thinking in English means reducing that effort. So instead of idea in your language plus translation, you go directly from idea to English.
And this is where research helps us understand what is happening. A recent study from 2024 looked specifically at what makes people fluent. When they speak a second language, the study has a very long academic name, but what matters is what they examined. They focused on something called cognitive fluency. And this concept helps explain why some people sound smooth, even if their grammar is not perfect.
Let's explain that in simple terms. Cognitive fluency is about how quickly the brain can recognize and retrieve or bring back words in a second language. For example, if I say restaurant, your brain immediately connects it to menu, table, food, waiter, without translating each word separately.
Here is what they found. Some learners rely mainly on controlled processing. That means their brain slows down to search for words and check choices. Everything is deliberate and careful. The other learners show more automatic processing. Their brain recognizes words faster and retrieves them with less effort. And this difference is measurable.
And the important result was this. Learners with more automatic word access spoke faster with fewer pauses. The study did not say these speakers were more intelligent, and it did not say they knew more grammar or vocabulary. It showed that their brains were simply better trained to access English quickly. So fluency is a training result, not a talent gift.
So, when we talk about thinking in English, we are really talking about how good your brain is at finding English words without stopping to calculate. And this is very important because many learners think the problem is grammar, but often the problem is speed of access. It is like knowing where the book is in the library, but walking very slowly to get it.
Now let's talk about translation. Translation is not bad, it is normal. And at the beginning, it is very useful. But if translation becomes your main speaking strategy, it creates problems. The research helps explain why this feels tiring. Controlled processing uses more mental energy. That is why your speech may be correct. But slow, hesitant, and unnatural fluency improves when the brain does not need to stop and check every step. And that is when conversation starts to feel lighter.
When John was learning French, he said something interesting. He did not suddenly decide to think in French. It happened gradually because of repetition and exposure. And this is important because many learners try to force themselves to think only in English, and then feel frustrated.
Yes, what changed everything for me was how much time I spent listening to French. I started hearing the same phrases again and again. I stopped building sentences word by word. I started using ready-made patterns. And slowly my brain adapted. Not because I forced it, but because I used the language often and naturally. For example, instead of building, I would like to order something word by word. I simply remembered the whole pattern.
And this is the key: nothing was forced. It was trained through use. So now let's talk about practical advice you can actually use. First, work on collocations. Your brain does not like isolated words or long lists. It likes predictable patterns. A collocation is a predictable combination of words. For example, we say, heavy rain. Not big rain, because heavy and rain go together. We say, make a decision. Take responsibility. When you learn phrases like these, your brain starts to anticipate the next word. This reduces effort and speeds up word retrieval, which is exactly what the research shows fluent speakers do better, and you begin to feel the language instead of constructing it.
Second, use shadowing. Shadowing means listening and repeating immediately out loud. No translation, no analysis, just reaction. This was one of the main techniques I used to become fluent in French. Shadowing trains your brain to move from controlled processing to more automatic processing. And that is exactly what we want. When we talk about thinking in English, at first it feels strange, but after some weeks you notice your mouth reacts faster.
Third, make sure you are speaking as much as you can, either with a partner or alone every day. If possible, speaking even with mistakes forces your brain to find the words faster and faster. Retrieval is what builds fluency and thinking in English. Even describing what you are doing at home, like, I am making coffee now, can help.
Fourth, use English stories for input. You do not need to understand every word, in fact. Understanding 60 or 70% is good. It pushes your brain to predict meaning. Use context and fill in the gaps. This is how your brain learns to connect ideas directly to English without translation. You need English input every day. And stories are powerful because they give context, not just sentences.
And finally, give yourself a realistic goal. Thinking in English is not a switch. It is a gradual change. Some days you will translate. Some days you will not. That is normal. The goal is not perfection. The goal is less effort and more flow. Try to keep that in mind and notice small improvements instead of waiting for a dramatic change.
So, thinking in English is not a myth. I know, because I think in French research shows that fluency grows when your brain becomes faster at accessing words. If you train that speed through repetition patterns and real use, your brain adapts, and one day you will not be thinking about English at all. You will just be speaking, and that moment feels surprisingly natural.
And that is what we want for you. Not perfect English, not complicated English, but natural, flowing, confident English. So keep listening. Keep repeating. Keep speaking, and little by little, your brain will change, and we will be here with you on that journey. Here on Bridge English Channel. Relax. Listen. Learn English.